Types of mixture presented by Mariam wael. So we are going to talk about what are electrolytes, what are non-electrolytes, what are the differences between electrolytes and non-electrolytes, and properties of suspension, solution, and colloid. What are electrolytes? Electrolytes are chemical compounds that can break down into ions when dissolved in water. These ions can conduct electricity through this aqueous solution. In order to break down into its ions, the electrolyte should be an ionic compound. Ionic compounds are made out of cations and anions. When dissolved in water, these ionic compounds can form aqueous cations and anions. These ions are dispersed uniformly throughout the solution. Then the solution is electrically neutral. If an electrical current is provided this solution from outside, the ions in the solution start to move. Cations move to the electrode where electron density is high, and anions tend to move to the other electrode. This movement of ions make an electric current through the solution. There are two types of electrolytes, strong electrolytes and weak electrolytes. Strong electrolytes completely ionize into its ions. There are no neutral molecule in this aqueous solution of a strong electrolyte. While weak electrolyte do not completely ionize into its ions, therefore there are also some neutral molecules present in the solution. So how to know whether the solution is a strong electrolyte or a weak electrolyte? You could know by measuring the electrical conductivity. And here is how to measure the electrical conductivity. So, if the light bulb is brightly lit, this means that it is a strong electrolyte. But if it is lit but less strongly, that means that it is a weak electrolyte. And if it doesn't lit at all, that means that it is a non-electrolyte. And here are some examples of strong and weak electrolytes. Strong acids and strong bases are strong electrolytes, since they can completely ionize in water. A compound should not necessarily dissolve in water in order to be considered a strong electrolyte. Some compounds partially dissolve in water, but yet they are strong electrolytes. For example, strontium hydroxide is partially dissolved in water, but yet it's a strong electrolyte. Since the amount that is dissolved in completely ionized, moreover, salts such as NaCl and MgCl2 are also strong electrolytes, since they are ionic compounds with a high degree of ionic characteristics. Weak acids and weak bases are considered as weak electrolytes. This is because these compounds partially dissociate into ions. Most nitrogen containing compounds are weak electrolytes. Water is also considered as a weak electrolyte. So, what are non electrolytes? Non electrolytes are chemical compounds whose aqueous solution cannot conduct electricity through the solution. These compounds don't exist in ionic form. Most non electrolytes are covalent compounds. When dissolved in water, these compounds do not form ions at all. Most carbon compounds, such as hydrocarbons, are non-electrolyte, since because these compounds cannot dissolve in water. Some compounds, such as glucose, can dissolve in water but not ionize. An aqueous solution of glucose is composed of glucose molecules. Therefore, sugar, fat, and alcohols are not electrolytes. Typically, non-electrolytes are non-polar compounds. Differences between electrolytes and non-electrolytes. Difference in definition. So electrolytes are chemical compounds that can break down into ions when dissolved in water, while non-electrolytes are chemical compounds whose aqueous solution cannot conduct electricity through the solution. Electrical conductivity. Electrolytes can conduct electricity through their aqueous solution. Non-electrolytes cannot conduct electricity through their aqueous solution. Chemical bonding. Electrolytes are composed of ionic bond, while non-electrolytes are composed of covalent bond. Compounds. Electrolytes are ionic compounds. Acid, bases, and salt are electrolytes, while non-electrolytes are covalent bond carbon-containing compounds. Fat and sugar are non-electrolytes. Types. Electrolytes can be found as strong electrolyte and weak electrolyte, while non-electrolyte doesn't have any types. Conclusion. Electrolytes and non-electrolytes are chemical compounds that are named such as according to the ability or inability to conduct electricity through their aqueous solution. This ability depends on the ionization of compound. In other words, the compound should be broken down into ions in order to conduct electricity through the ions. The main difference between electrolytes and non-electrolytes is that electrolytes can get ionized when dissolved in water, whereas non-electrolytes cannot get ionized when dissolved in water. And here are two tables showing differences between strong electrolytes and weak electrolytes, and electrolytes versus non-electrolytes. And I will be putting a video in the description in which there is an explanation of everything I said with more questions and examples to make sure that you understand this lesson well. Now I'll be talking about properties of suspension. So, a suspension is a heterogeneous mixture. The size of a solid particle in a suspension is quite large. It's larger than 100 millimeters in diameter. The particles of suspension can be seen easily. The particles of suspension do not pass through filter paper, so a suspension cannot be separated by filtration. Suspension is unstable. The particles of a suspension settle down after some time. A suspension scatters a beam of light passing through it because of its large particle size. Examples of suspension: muddy water, milk of magnesia, sand particles suspended in water, fluorine in water, slag lime for washing, paints in which dyes are suspended in turbinate oil. Properties of solution and colloid. What is a solution? A solution is a homogeneous mixture of substance. For example, when salt dissolves in water, homogeneous mixture of solution forms. The component of a mixture that is present in the greatest quantity or that determines the state of matter of the solution is called a solvent, and the other component is called solute. What is colloid? A colloid is an intermediate between solution and suspension. It has particle with size between 2 and 1000 nanometer. A colloid is easily visible to the naked eye. Colloids can be distinguished from solution using the Tyndall effect. Tyndall effect is defined as the scattering of light beam through a colloidal solution. The particle are termed as a colloidal particle, and the mixture form is known as colloidal dispersion. Liquid, solid, and gases all mix together to form colloidal dispersion. And here is a photo of the Tyndall effect. So now we are going to talk about different types of colloidal solution. First, aerosols, solid or liquid mixed with gas. Example, fog. Sols, solid mixed with liquid. Example, paint. Emulsion, liquid with liquid. Example, oil and water. Gel, liquid and solid. Example, fruit jelly. And here is a table showing differences between suspension and colloid. Thank you for watching.